I'm Ryan.
Hey, I'm Nate.
Hello, I'm Steve. And today on Movie Talk, we, the Dungeon Vets, are going to be talking about Avatar: The Way of Water, the second installment in the Avatar movie series, directed by James Cameron. And we're going to look at this story and the things that happen in it, and we're going to translate it into Dungeons and Dragons, the encounters, the character decisions, and talk about what you can take away as a DM or as a player for your own table. So, just to get right into it, let's do our ratings of the story. And today we're going to do something a little different. We're also going to start rating the translatability of the movie or story, whatever it is, into D&D. Not everything is going to be able to go directly into D&D. Lord of the Rings is a good example of something that can very easily go directly into D&D. But not everything does, and so we're going to give it another unique rating. So, Ryan, why don't you start us off, man?
Yeah, so you'll have to excuse me. I am currently sick. Oh, geez.
The
Okay.
latest victim.
Yeah, so Avatar 2, my rating for it is I'll give it a 3 out of 5, or, maybe 3.5 out of 5. I definitely enjoyed sitting through the 3 hours of the movie, the entire movie. I didn't think there was much time wasted in any of it. And as far as D&D relatability goes, I think I would maybe give it a 2.5. There's a lot of movie specific stuff that I don't think would translate very well over into D&D, but there's still plenty that we can cover. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing this episode.
Sure.
Yeah, we're as usual, sort of on the same wavelength, I'd say. As far as the movie's rating itself, yeah, I'll give it like a 3.5. I'd say it's a perfectly entertaining movie. I enjoyed it. I, on the other hand, think that there was a little bit of wasted time. I think it didn't need to be 3 hours, and I think the fact that they reused it seems like a lot of the story points from the last one kind of irked me a little bit. I was sitting there thinking like, all right, it's been like over a decade and you're kind of spitting out the same story but with different flavor almost. Not exactly, but that's why I'm not rating a little higher like I did I think the last one. And as far as the D&D ability goes, yeah, I'd put it maybe around like a 2.5. There's definitely some elements that you can bring in, but it's definitely not as directly translatable to the table as some other films we've covered.
I kind of feel like if you loved the first movie, you'll also love this one. But if you enjoyed the first one, you'll also enjoy it. I don't, and if you didn't like the first one, you also won't like this one because
Yeah.
they're very similar in that
They're
way.
the same movie.
Yeah, they're
Yeah, they're the same movie.
they are the ways in which they're different are like just enough, but yeah, if you didn't like the first one, this one isn't nearly different enough to hook you back in. I am not going to break any new ground from you guys. I'm going to rate it a 3.5, maybe like a 4. I keep struggling between those two. I enjoyed it, but I'm probably not going to watch it again before, the next one comes out. And I agree with Nate. I do think it was a little long. I can only take so much scenes of like, oh my God, look at how wondrous it is underwater. But with saying that, visually, it was incredible, an absolute technical marvel, and that can never be really overlooked. And then, yeah, for the D&D ability, you're dealing with crazy technology, which just doesn't usually mesh with D&D. So I'm gonna do a 2.5 out of 5. There's a couple of thematic elements and adventure elements that you can take, but the details are pretty sparse. All right. So moving forward, as we talk about D&D, this will be a very spoiler heavy talk about the movie Avatar: The Way of Water. So spoilers. I guess the first big thing is the setting. In the first campaign, the huge environmental setting was this crazy jungle, and the main premise, it's no spoiler at all to say this, that they leave the jungle and they go to the sea people. So the environment has played such a huge role in this campaign, and it will continue to. The DM has made that very clear, right? So how do you handle shifting to such a, and it's not just a harsh environment, it's water, like human beings and a lot of the races and species, they're not made for water. So how do you handle that as a player, and you go about doing that?
I think from the DM's perspective, I want to do almost exactly what they did and kind of throw them right into it. And this is going to be a challenge. You're going to have to adapt to this new environment that you're not suited to, you're not used to. And whether that's a continuation from something you've already been playing, or this is just the kind of the background that you're being dropped into the beginning of this campaign from, I think that's kind of fun. And I would also say, from a player's perspective, that's part of the fun, is that I'm gonna have to figure out how to adapt and thrive in this brand new kind of hostile environment. And so you're just gonna have to figure out ways to get through.
Yeah, you're moving on from a totally into, I guess, a totally alien environment from another alien environment. If we're going from movie to movie, but if you're bringing this into D&D, you're likely trying to make a big change of pace from a land-based campaign and then introducing an arc or maybe a whole campaign based in the water. And if you haven't done that, or if all the players haven't done that, there are definitely going to be a lot of obstacles, we'll say, into making a D&D campaign in the water. Namely, how well can everybody swim?
Yes, movement. Yeah.
And if you've seen the movie, you would know that drowning is always a danger. And I guess if you have some power gamers, and your players already know what the campaign's going to be about, we're going to see a lot of water genasi and tritons, right?
Yeah, you'll see certain species for sure.
It kind of makes me think that maybe this does need to be a thing that's at least somewhat brought up before you drop your
Oh
players
yeah,
into this environment, because maybe whether you're starting it from, like, maybe you need to talk about it in session 0, or maybe you're taking a party you have and putting this a new environment. Like, you don't want the I don't know, the dwarf fighter in full plate trying to
yeah.
struggle
Yeah.
around in water world, right? Because they're just gonna be totally gimped, and that's not really gonna be fun. I Could you make it fun? Yeah, but they're gonna be at a serious disadvantage, and so there's a lot of work there to make sure that they're still kinda viable as a part of the party.
I think it's definitely a pre-session 0 type thing. We are going to be in a water here. Like, so don't get don't get all hoped and bound into your dwarf fighter who is not going to do well in the
Yeah,
water.
or the ranger who preps all of their stuff based on the Arctic. um, they're like, I thought that we were gonna be in the
I
snow.
thought we were in the forest.
Um,
We were in the forest last time. What the heck?
I would say as to the DMs that when you're shifting environments like this, you're going into something that's utterly alien to your players and your players' capabilities. That you need to plan tiers of rewards based on the environment. So like if when they as soon as they get there, maybe they get something that allows them a swim speed, or they get a mount or something like that relatively quickly. Later down the line,
A
they
magic
can get
item that
yeah,
lets
or
them
yeah,
breathe.
and these can always be magic items instead of actual abilities inherent to the character too. So like there's a million different ways you could do this, but I would say that like breathing underwater would be a higher tier type of reward. Um because being able to swim is one thing, but being able to breathe underwater gives you now a third dimension to your travel in the water. That's very useful. So if you're going to do this to your players, it's not just, I wouldn't say, on them to adapt. You have to allow them opportunities to get better, because if you're a human, how are you ever going to get a swim speed without the DM's help? So give them ways to
Everybody takes the
thrive.
mobile feat.
Actually, the mobile feat doesn't give you a swim speed.
Oh no.
No,
Well,
I looked it
if
up.
you consider if
It's
you consider the water difficult terrain,
yeah,
you can now run on top of the water.
that's what it is. You weren't on top of the water.
That is a great point, actually. And also, like, if you are already running something and you want to drop your players into a brand new environment, that's a good thing to keep in mind. Because, like, maybe you've got a party that is, like, mostly suited to this sort of thing, or at least they have ways to adapt to it. But you've got that dwarven fighter in heavy armor. How do you do it? Just give them something, or at least the opportunity to gain something that's going to help them out there. It's like the
Yeah.
getting to the water level in a lot of old school platformers, which all of them had a water level, right? You'll find something that'll help you get along through it
Yeah, the
often.
You get the iron
the
boots
iron
from
boots and the blue
Legend of Zelda.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
with I think a final note, and this is probably the biggest one, is world building effectively for as your DM, world building for the water type campaigns. Think about it just like it's on land. You have all your different civilizations and monsters. Have a lot of fun with the amazingly huge leviathans that are such high CRs that you just never get to use in normal D&D. And then finally, consider how combat's going to work. No one wants to break out the Pythagorean theorem calculator because you have to, calculate for X, Y, and Z. But figure out a way to simplify that unless you're in a group that really likes doing that quick math. But figure out how to simplify that as easy as possible.
Yeah, the last thing you want is to get into this new environment and then you get into your first combat and realize, "Oh shit, how do we work this out?"
Yeah.
And then spend half your session trying to look at rule books and homebrew things and God knows what.
Definitely consider your ranged options. Your bows and arrows are not going to work very well.
Hmm.
Your guns also won't work as effectively. But maybe there's some, like Steve mentioned, there's some upgrades the party can get along the way that are projectiles suited for this environment.
Dude, could you imagine Ulrich with a harpoon gun?
Oh, that'd be pretty sick.
Yeah. All right. So, something else that continues in this next stage of this grand Avatar campaign is the fact that you're fighting a superior enemy. And in the movie, it's a technologically superior enemy. But in D&D, you don't have to make it technology. There's lots of ways to make a power imbalance. But the fact that you're pretty imbalanced, um, that makes all encounters with the enemy really high stakes. And how do you continue this theme while also making it new and fresh for the players? And I guess as a player, how do you keep it fresh for yourself? Or is there ways that you can do it, or the things that you can do?
Yeah, and from this point on, we're not necessarily talking about what you just said, but also in the water or anything. This is just in general fighting a
Sure.
technologically superior enemy. I think we kind of brainstormed this a little bit before recording, and my favorite one was this adversary for whatever reason has access to magic that you don't have. Uh, you know, Talking about one D&D, you have like the arcane, the primal, and what's the third one? The
Divine, is it?
divine.
Divine, yeah,
Yeah,
divine.
maybe you don't have access to that as certain players. Maybe you have access to only one, but the enemy has access to all three. Maybe you only have primal stuff, and you're kind of taking a note out of the movie, and you're playing these druidic type, very in tune with nature folks. But you're going up against an enemy who has full arcane mastery, and they are throwing fireballs, they are summoning, they are using wards, all the stuff that you're not capable of doing until later on when the tides turn or some such thing, when you become the first wizard of your kind or something like that.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of ways to do it that are just sort of built into D&D, whether it could be as simple as they're like at a higher level and they have access to more powerful, spells and abilities and things like that. Or it could be just like in the movie, it could be a technological advantage that you could work in through world building and things like that. But I think why that's enjoyable is like for the same reason it is in the movie. It's like we like to root for the underdogs and we like to be the underdogs overcoming these huge obstacles and these superior foes, things like that. David and Goliath, all that, the classic stuff.
Yeah, I think a good way to do this is using like devils and such. They are often just kind of touted as being more than mortal, and they are stronger than mortals. And so you can have these homebrew or uh, monster manual monsters that are much stronger than you are, or maybe they have crossbows that do d12s instead of d10s, and you can't pick them up as a player because when the devil dies, it disappears along with the devil or something like that. And so that's a way to, because at least at our table, if I introduce something like that, I know Jeff or Alex is going to be like, I pick up the crossbow. Uh, and I'm going to be like, oof, it's gone actually. So sorry about that.
Yeah.
In undead can also do that with their sort of undead fortitude. Maybe they have, and using resistances to non magical means. That's a good way. Whether it's through technological means or magical means, just resistance in general, effectively doubles a monster's health until the party is able to find a way around it, which as a DM you should have prepared in some way down the line.
When talking about fighting a superior foe in general, you can go any direction because you don't know exactly what the circumstances are. But if your superior enemy is in water along with your heroes and your adventuring parties, one of the things that they can have right away is just better movement, because we talked
Oh
about
yeah.
introducing your party into this new environment, and then they're going to have to slowly level up, not just as a character with their own classes or whatever, but to thrive in this new environment that you're trying to twist them up with, being the water. So they have, in the movie, they have various types of underwater subs that seem to be faster, more durable than, people swimming. So that's something. They have a method of moving and attacking you in ways that's just better. And then you have underwater guns and stuff like that. You can have technological firepower in various different ways, but the ability to move underwater, the ability to hold your breath for longer or to breathe, period, stuff that allows them to just exist easier will also then make all other encounters in their favor.
Yeah, that's the most dangerous thing is going up against a more mobile enemy than you are. In all likelihood, they're probably stronger because they're more used to the water and such. That is a quick way to get a TPK when your party cannot disengage from the enemy,
Oh yeah.
unless you set up maybe a lair, an underwater cave where you can like knock over some rocks that closes the entrance off into it or some such thing. That is a quick way to a TPK.
I'll tell you what I really like the idea of, and so both of you kind of touched on it, but is like fighting the undead in an underwater environment. And that the advantage that they have is they don't need to breathe. They never need to come up. And so I like the idea that you're coming to this water environment, and maybe the folks you're helping who live there are very well suited to the water, but they can't, just like in the movie, they can't stay under forever. But this force of undead could literally just live under the water, and that
Oh
could be a
yeah.
huge advantage to them just slowly pushing in because they never need to come up.
You see all the time in mythology, these undead hands sticking their heads out of the water to like pull people in and drown them. And yeah, maybe the skeletons are super frail, but if they hold you for a turn, that might be the difference between making your con saves to start drowning or not.
Or there's just so many of them. And like yeah, like maybe they're frail, they're rotting, they've been underwater for who knows how long, but there's just an overwhelming number of them. It reminds me a lot actually of World War Z, the book. If you read it, there's like tons of the zombies underwater that become a huge deal in the book. And yeah, they're such a threat because they'll just wash up, they'll wash up anywhere, anytime you go in the water, you have to be concerned, like, they'll be there because they could just stay there essentially forever.
Reminds me of The Witcher. When you're running around, no matter if there's any body of water in that world, there's just
Always
drowners there.
Yeah.
Like
they're gonna be there.
they're as common as
Or
seagulls, maybe more common than seagulls in that world.
we'll keep it going, and WoW, there's murlocs always near the
Yeah.
water. I remember just running around in WoW. Anytime I get near water, I'd be like, please don't." Fuck!
Murlocs are a fun enemy. I think I might borrow them. Imagine like Steve, you hadn't played WoW, but imagine it's like a lizard folk, but it's a fish folk, but it's also a halfling, and they're unreasonable.
And they're unreasonable.
This kind of just sounds like a goblin.
No, that's a gilblin, is what you're thinking.
All right. Well, here's a question for you guys. There's a when you look at this story in the movie and you try to formulate a D&D campaign off of it, you inherently kind of look at the characters and think to yourself, well, what's the party here? And so it seems to me that we could talk about like two different parties, and one I'm really excited to talk about. Um, the first though is being the children of this grand folk hero, this seemingly known around everywhere and beloved and respected and everything. and not only is you're a child of this person, but this person's with you at all times. It's probably an NPC controlled by the DM. So like how does this
Yeah.
impact your ability to then make an adventure? Because it's not just a mentor character that's an NPC. It's your father, or your parent, your mother.
So for context, if you haven't seen the movie yet and you're still listening, uh, the party he's sort of referring to is Jake Sully, the main character from the first movie. He's got kids now, and the main characters of this movie are not so much him, but his children. One in particular. But I think this is so freaking cool. I think you finish a campaign, you have the happy ending epilogue, and then however long later, one of the characters has a bunch of kids, and then everyone comes back to the table, and the DM is like, "We're gonna come back to the same world as the second generation of the party. Maybe you're not everyone's kids, but maybe you're the descendants of the adventuring group or the kingdom of wherever that your characters founded." That kind of thing. This is super neat. Also, you can reuse a lot of stuff, which is nice as a DM, and it's easy to have a target painted on you because you're famous.
So you're saying that like just conflicts and combat encounters come to you because everyone's coming is seeking
Oh
you out?
yeah. You
Okay,
mean to
yeah.
tell me you mean to tell me that at some point during this previous campaign, you didn't piss off an NPC and then, 20 years down the line he's like, "I'm going to get my revenge on you by kidnapping your kids."
Okay.
And, some such side plot is able to be had because pissed off a bread merchant in some random town 20 years ago.
Well, not a bread merchant, but I certainly can't say that that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
It's a great jumping off point for either kind of like you mentioned, the second part of a campaign, or just for like a backstory. I'm the uh,
Child.
Child.
child. There we go. I literally was blanking on the gender neutral term for that. Child. Yeah, that's
You
the
could try
one.
kid as well, or
Sauter. Done.
Yeah, kid was the one I was
offspring,
about to say. Offspring, yes. I am
descendant,
I am the descendant.
Spawn.
I am the
spawn,
child. I am the spawn. Uh,
progeny.
you're
There's so many.
really just rubbing it in of this great hero, which I think is great. There's a lot of stuff to have fun with there, and I think one of the most fun parts is those knives we always talk about, and it's exactly what you were just talking about, Steve. Is that someone's gonna have a grudge against mom or dad or whomever.
Yeah, you can always play with, this does the sins of the father, follow the sins of the son, that kind of thing. It's
Yeah.
easy enough to pull off that way. And you can also play with legacy. Maybe you have this is, an idea for a PC. Your father or whomever, your mother maybe is this paragon of justice and is the golden god of wherever. And you don't like that. You don't play that way. You're a disappointment in their eyes. You came out wrong in their eyes, which is always a fun thing to explore. You're the black sheep of the family.
Yeah.
Being the rebellious child is a wonderful backstory to work with.
So, I am gonna kind of take the opposite side of the coin here from you guys. I don't know that I would enjoy this as a player. I kind of think that having my dad along would get in the way, especially if I'm the disappointment. I think it could be kind of dicey for the DM to try to find that balance too, because as a father, you're just trying to protect your child. You're trying to teach them what you feel is best. But as a DM, you want the player to have fun and to do these cool, adventurous things. And so I would be really worried, to be honest. I do think that the certain moments you guys talk about could be cool, but I think the opportunity to have sort of stilted moments of like, no, I'm your father, you should listen to me. What happens? Does the player roll a persuasion check against their father? And then
You just let it go out. You let it have a
yeah, I'm
conversation.
not saying it couldn't
Yeah,
happen,
Yeah, I think that's really kind of easily fixed too. In the movie, the dad is pretty much always there.
right?
Jake Sully
Yeah.
is always there, especially to drag them out of danger. But in a campaign, no, just give them there, make them there for the tutorial maybe, or welcome to this new area, here's how you do things kind of deal. And then I would say let them loose, let the party loose, and let them sort of create their own identity. But you definitely want to use that that NPC, this super NPC that is so relatable to all the characters, in a later down the line boss fight type thing. Maybe you have a boss fight that
Yeah,
is
okay.
multiple levels above what you're actually capable of doing, but the odds are evened somewhat by this parental figure being there. And they're not always having to be over your shoulder, but if they can come in at pivotal moments, definitely not in like a Deus Ex Machina kind of way, because that's not fun for anyone. But you can still have a fun moment there.
Yeah, you don't have to be like the NPC rather doesn't have to be like the helicopter parent, kind of like Jake Sully is in the movie. And also, I would say like if you're going with that concept, whomever those players are, that player or those players should kind of like be should agree to this. I don't think this is something you should drop onto a player and be like, your dad's gonna be there the whole time. Like that's something you should work out between each other, not just drop on someone.
Yeah, you want that to be like a, oh man, my dad's gonna be there, when they know that they're going to a place, that he's visiting, or where he lives. Maybe that should be like something that hangs over their head, like, oh crap, we got to go see mom or dad.
Okay, so that kind of fixes it for me.
You know that meme of those two girls in the car, but one is like super pale and has the black hair, and the other one's like super smiley and rainbow hair
Yeah.
colored.
Yeah.
That reminds me, just that'd be a cool dynamic to play. Like,
Oh yeah.
you have your parents' favorite, and then you have the black sheep in the party.
I would love to like play out that dynamic with like another player. We would like plan this out.
Not to mention, I guess taking some inspiration from Avatar 2 in this manner. What if you're adopted into this family, and your mom is looking for an excuse to murder you?
God. Oh,
And in the movie,
how do we play that out?
Natiri is not as in love with her adopted human child as she is with her Navi children and her Navi
She's a
adopted
bit of a
children.
dick, if I'm being
Yeah,
honest.
there's a point in the movie where he's like, I gotta hide from her, because she will kill me.
Well, there's a point in the movie where she literally takes him hostage and threatens to kill him.
Yes, she
Yeah,
does. I want to talk about that too.
It does seem like she was willing to. You know what I want to talk
Yeah.
about though? While we're discussing this concept of having like the parent and player characters underneath him is just exactly how fucking cringe Jake Sully was as a dad, especially to us
Oh
as
yes.
veterans.
Yes.
oh
Let's
yeah,
let's
he's
address this. Let's address this for all of our veteran audience out there. Um Jake Sully hasn't been in the military for 13 years, and he makes his kids call him sir. He says fall in to them
Oh
to get them to
god.
come
It
over.
physically hurts me.
One of the kids says Lima Charlie
Yeah.
to him.
yeah, loud and clear, Lima Charlie. As people who grew up in the South, especially in maybe religious households, are probably used to like having to call your father sir or something. That's pretty common.
Yeah, that's not the most outlandish thing.
Yeah, but
No, but
using the military, certainly not fall in.
Yes. Oh yeah, yeah. No, 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 no.
god.
Not be happy if my father told me to fall in.
I would would not want Jake to be my dad.
Yeah. But on one hand, it's cringe. It's cringe to us and everybody else, but nobody on that planet knows it's cringe.
I
Oh
know.
no, that's
So
God,
he's living the
that's
dream.
such a good point.
nobody realizes
He
it.
gets to be cringe all he wants, and everyone else just thinks, "Wow, this is just how humans are. They're so cool. They run everything like the military."
Wow, look at this new parenting technique.
He gets to make all dad jokes in English to his kids for the first. I guess that's what all dads make dad jokes for the first time to their kids. Never mind. So hey, the other aspect of this when we're talking about the party is there's kind of a second adventure going on in this movie, and this is a heavy spoiler, even though it was kind of already announced way before the movie came out. But the Colonel from the first movie is back. Colonel Quaritch, who was killed in the first movie,
The villain.
he used some very advanced technology to save his memories on a floppy disk type of thing, and they uploaded the floppy disk into an avatar body, just like Jake Sully did. and he is now alive again, and he has been tasked with finding and killing Jake Sully.
Yeah, and while we're on this, I just want to point out real quick that as much stuff as they seem to, like, in my mind, have reused from the first movie, they really just brought back the same villain from the first movie. When I saw it happening, I thought, no, no way, right? I really did.
So you didn't
I
like it?
was,
You didn't?
I was very disappointed.
Okay.
They're trying to tell a story now to where, this from a different angle, this human or this recom going to ingratiate or immerse themselves in this culture. And then they're really playing on like Spider and then him being his dad and everything and seeing where that goes. And that story is really not possible unless you bring him
Yeah,
back.
true. So, okay, regardless of how he comes back, the fact does remain that Quaritch and several of his goons, which were killed in the first movie, are all brought back as avatars, and we have this party of it of blue avatar people with Marines inside of them. So they say get some, obviously.
And the cringiest of Marines who are just there to
Oh yeah.
exactly say get some and hoorah and just be cringe Marines, but they're blue.
But they have a lot of agency in this movie. They
They
essentially
do.
have their own adventure, and this brought us around to thinking about how could you run a campaign where the party is evil,
I don't even necessarily
quote unquote evil.
if you say
Okay,
evil and like there's a lot you could talk about when it comes to like running evil campaigns, but this isn't even necessarily evil, at least not in from their perspective.
Yeah, maybe just not as
But it's
morally stringent.
okay, all right. So your chaotic
Maybe your
party,
morals are different, Yeah, a chaotic, neutral
well, you
party.
can give them morally questionable motives, I suppose. And maybe that would be a fun thing to bring in is that, you come up to this point where you're kind of realizing like, oh, we're doing,
Are we the baddies?
possibly really yeah, exactly. We have that "Are we the baddies?" moment, which with the right table can be a really fun
Oh, wait.
angle to play.
This is super cool because we just took the idea of being the kids of like the prior heroes from a different campaign, and now you're the people hunting down
Oh yeah,
the heroes from the prior campaign.
yeah, that is pretty cool.
that would
So would
be oh
you would
man,
you like that though? Would you try to go kill this person that you just ran a campaign with?
I would so fucking hunt down Ulrich. I would
You would?
murder the shit out of him. Oh yeah,
It's hard to use other people's it's hard to use other people's characters for that. Like, I wouldn't want to go murder John the Dramatic, one of your characters,
Yeah.
Steve, or Edwell or something. But if it came to murdering Galen, I would green light it all the way because
Wow.
he's my character. And if we had to hunt him down, that would be fun because he's a little bit Liam Neeson like in Taken. He can hunt you right back.
so the big problem is there is eventually you come to that moment where you found him. You've tracked down Galen, right? You've caught him.
Oh, and he's got a lot of kids already.
Oh, maybe he has a lot of kids, but who's playing Galen? It has to be the
Yeah.
DM at that point, right?
Yeah, it would have to be
But
the
it's
DM.
like that's such a challenge for the DM to be like, I have to play this character just like my player played him or something. Like,
What if they're like a
and then you
14th
as a
level
player have to
enemy and the party's made up of 5th levels? And you have to figure out ways to even the battlefield there because that 14th level person is going to cleave through you like a hot knife through butter. You have to figure out his weaknesses. You have to go obtain the means to exploit his weaknesses. Perhaps maybe you're not able to make them any less potent martially, but maybe, like they do in the movie, you can capture his freaking kids and you can use that as a means of getting to
Yeah,
him.
you talked about this party isn't necessarily evil. Um, Nate. They abduct his children and attempt to like use them against him. So I'm with you on the fact that you can just be like an anti-hero, you can be more murder hobo-y while still being heroes. But I kind of want to talk about playing a party that is doing unsavory things in order to succeed in their mission.
I think that's almost every single party at every single D&D table. I think they all do unsavory things.
I'm always thinking about like, I know what I want to do, and I don't often let that happen. I can think of one time where I let what do I want to do actually spill out into what I do,
Oh
and
yes.
it ruined the entire campaign.
It didn't ruin anything.
Or it didn't ruin it. It changed it quite a bit.
That session is affectionately named the day that Galen said "fuck it." So
But I mean, for real though, like that's like okay. You say like, oh, they kidnap kids. Obviously, they're evil. But I can 100% see a D&D party kidnapping kids, and they're like, well, we're doing the right thing, right? Because it's like this is what we want. We know what we're doing is right. It's for the greater good. That's every D&D table.
all right.
Yeah, maybe you have a person who's like, but we're not going to kill them, right? They're going to be safe, right? We're going to bring them to safety later, right? And then, maybe you do or you don't.
I will say though, there is a certain value in like really laying it out there that the party has more freedom to be a little more chaotic, a little more loose with morals than otherwise they might be, depending on circumstances. Like some parties are just like that, but I've said all that, but for the most part, our parties tend to be pretty good and
Yeah.
in the general sense of being moral, upstanding folks.
And that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be a chaotic, just agent of chaos or something like that. You can have a code that your party is, sticks to. In the movie, all the recoms, all the, Quaritch and his goons, they're all very pro-human all the way. Do anything it takes in the name of humanity. Like that's their code. Look, if you just tell me that bottom line, bring the guy in, try not to kill people, you can still have a lot of fun with that.
Okay. You could also have a lot of bloodbath with that too, I think.
You
Which
can.
is D&D is not unfun in the right
No, I
campaign.
know. We all have a inner murder hobo right here somewhere, deep down, right? That we all have one. It's nice to let him out and just fan the flames sometimes.
This is the part of the episode where we say, hey, know your table, know your
Right.
players, know what they're going to work with best, and know what might either get out of hand or folks might just not enjoy.
Talk to your DM and talk to your players.
Talk to your mom.
Yeah, call her. It's been a
Yeah.
while. She misses you.
Call your dad.
Yeah, it's been a while. He misses you.
Yeah. They went to a lot of trouble in the last campaign.
Yeah.
So what sort of encounters from this movie really stuck out to you guys? The first thing that really comes to mind that I thought was really interesting was the shark encounter with Loak. In the movie, Loak gets
Yeah.
taken out beyond the reef by some of these kids who don't like him, and they leave him there, and he gets attacked by a shark, like a big old shark, and there is no combat here. He is just swimming through under underwater underbrush. I don't know what to call it. What do you call it, Mr. Geologist?
Foliage.
Foliage? Oh, it's just foliage.
A reef.
Anyways, he's
What's a reef?
swimming through the reef,
It's like a
swimming through underwater foliage, and
reefage.
it's this huge monster that he cannot hope to really effectively combat. And the whole time his air is running out. So this is essentially a escape survival skill check sort of thing almost. And I thought this was so cool because normally you show the party a big monster and they want to fight it and they want to kill it and then cut off the horns and take it back to the village and get free ale and all that stuff. But there isn't, like I said, there is no combat here. And I was just really struck by how tense that sort of encounter would be and therefore how much fun it would be.
Yeah, this so Loak, who is basically the main character of the film, and there's this big monster that is now hunting down the party, who is now just floating away. They don't have their mount anymore. They that gets them places faster. It's swam off or something, or it's been scared off. And this is kind of like the danger of the water, because everything is so big in there and everything can gobble you up in just one bite. And in the movie it's like, yeah, if he is caught out and if he gets got for 1 second, he's dead. And now the party at least would have to the goal is to probably get to shallow water or to shore. But now you have to play with like taunting a monster that can kill you in one hit, or racing to get air before you drown, or taking turns and stuff like that. It would be super fun. And if this were early on in a campaign, I'd be all about it. Actually, I'd probably be all about it wherever it is. I kind of like those stakes.
It'd be rough, but yeah, a very interesting encounter and one that probably as the DM, when you first see that kind of creature coming up, you need to make it very clear immediately that you can't really fight this, or at least if you try to, you're going to stand very, very little chance against it.
I think,
Because that's most parties' immediate reaction is like, oh,
Yeah.
here we go. We're
you
going to
know,
fight this
fists
thing.
up. Yeah, we're gonna
Yeah.
fight this thing. Use a monster, a big, familiar, scary monster like a leviathan, like a big giant eel or a dragon turtle that everybody knows what it is, and everybody knows that you're not going to fight one of these things. You're going to lose. A megalodon, maybe.
Yeah. Use your, even if it's not something everyone knows, you can use your descriptive, your description, your descriptive voice, your prose to make it very clear that this is something you don't want to be even close to.
And I have no problem doing this with my party. I will straight up say, these are the rules of the encounter. Just say this thing will kill you in one hit before you go
Yeah.
into the encounter. And just saying that in a meta tone raises the stakes for everyone. And now they have to think in a different context.
Or maybe if the stakes aren't quite that high, you could use something like a lasting injuries table. You could say, well, you could take maybe 2 hits from this thing. Like it'll bite you once and that'll automatically cause a lasting injury. And if it bites you a second time, you're
It's a
dead.
jellyfish.
I actually love that idea of like you have maybe 3 chances to roll against this. On the third one, you're dead, but the first 2 you're rolling on the lasting injuries table, and that could be like missing a limb
Yeah,
or getting like concussed by it or something crazy.
that's not a bad
Sounds
idea.
really fun.
Especially, yeah, if you just take it as death saves. So you have 3 death saves, 3 strikes, and you're out. So that's already familiar. It's like you just say this monster does death save damage. So if you get hit once, that's 1 death save, but you can still act as if you're conscious and just use a 3 strikes or out system. Which, somebody's gonna be like, it's my time to sacrifice myself.
Of course. Of course. That was the first encounter I thought of as well because that would just be I don't think I've ever been in a situation quite like that in D&D before, and I think both from a DM's perspective and a player's perspective, that could be really interesting and a lot of fun.
So if you're going to run something like this, you have to give your players environmental things to adapt or to play with. Kelp they can hide in, some hidden underwater plant that creates like a little shell of air that they can breathe if they find
Yes,
it.
air pockets would be very big.
Maybe they make a nature check, and if they make an 18, they see it. But if they make a 16, they can see other things and do it at advantage if somebody's from here.
All right, alternatively, it's not like this evil gonna eat you shark type of encounter against the party. Instead, it's the party hunting this beautiful, intelligent aquatic animal. What about the whale hunt from Quaritch and his guys?
Oh yeah. Yeah, that is kind of just the exact opposite. I feel like in that scene they just needed to like remind you how evil these guys are.
It went on for a while, didn't it?
Really hammering home.
It went on for a while and like we already know they're bad guys, but they're like, now watch them hunt down this beautiful sentient creature with intelligence that rivals or surpasses Navi or
And it's a
humans.
mother
And
literally escorting her
And it's a
calf.
mother.
With this being this is kind of part of an evil party. You could make it just a whale, and you can make it relatively cruel feeling, or you could make it more of a combat encounter. I think that if the whale could fight back, this is a very fun combat encounter with these little ships all moving around, and one person, you could have different members of the party on different boats. And the point too is that you're not just trying to kill it, but you're trying to save the body as well. You're trying to catch
yeah,
it.
you're trying to harvest. We kind of glossed over the main motivation that all the humans have in this movie, and it's that Earth is dying.
Yeah.
Oh, we didn't even talk about it.
Yeah, they're preparing Pandora to be mass colonized. They're terraforming it and stuff.
I wonder what Earth looks like at this point, though. Like, probably just as bad.
Like Mordor.
Like Mordor. Humans are space orcs.
So the whales got to fight back somehow.
Yeah.
The party has to be in a situation where they're put in danger. So if you're fighting a whale, maybe you have to be in the water and you have to hit it in a certain place in order for this to successfully harvest it. you have to turn it around or something. Maybe there's a pod of killer whales who are extremely intelligent creatures in their own right and are also pretty damn good at killing anything. They're apex predators. Um, but they're valuable for a reason, and so you need to kill one. So now you have to say you need one whale, but if you pick on one whale, all the other ones are going to attack you as well.
Or like, so even in the movie, it's not just the boat versus the whale. Kind of, they have to send out all these other different sorts of, in their case, they use vehicles, but you send out folks that are separate from the main whale hunting boat to do their own little tasks that can have their own separate challenges as they're trying to take it down.
Yeah, maybe everybody has a specific role. Like this isn't going to be the main thing of your campaign. This is probably just going to be a one-off type of scenario that's fun and different for the party. So maybe everybody has a particular job they have to do in this scenario. It's like running a heist on a giant living creature.
Yeah, that's a
Hey,
really
next
good
episode, catch us
metaphor.
on Book Talk, Moby Dick.
I am never reading Moby Dick ever again. I read it once, and it took everything I had as a teenager to read all of Moby Dick, but I did it.
I've actually never read it. It's one of those classics that you know, I haven't read many of the classics. I'm not ashamed to say it.
You shouldn't be.
That's fair. I haven't read many that I wasn't forced to in high school.
Most of the classics are not good, in my opinion.
We've gotten better as a species at writing books.
Agreed. Hard agree.
The first time that they come to the water folks, I can't remember their name off the
The
top of my head,
Metcaina.
but the Metcaina, I knew it was an
Good for
M.
you, Ryan.
The first time when they come to the Metcaina, they're kind of faced with this challenge, like, so they're asking for some kind of established social thing, like, hey, I'm asking you for shelter, and it's clearly like a known as a thing, but they're not sure they're going to give it to them. But
It definitely seemed like they were invoking some type of right.
yeah, exactly. And maybe that is a thing, or maybe it isn't, but that first encounter with these folks that you're trying to either seek shelter from or integrate with, that's a really interesting social encounter.
Yeah, definitely. And if we take the idea that this is like children of a folklore or something, maybe they are seeking out a former NPC. You can imagine like Forebears or something. The next generation is coming up to this NPC that we had named Forebears or something, and they're like, they know who we are, they know of us, they know something like that, and we are seeking this sacred right of shelter or refuge in a dire straits situation. And they might not like you for some reason or another. And you have to like make this persuasion check. And maybe it's one of those things where the DC is raised or lowered depending on what they say. So they could stick their foot in their mouth. I think you're probably always going to say yes, but we're not going to be happy about it. And you have to do these things for us.
Yeah, it's a really classic scenario to arrive at location, meet NPC, and then NPC tasks the party with doing something in order to get something else.
Yeah. Everybody knows nothing is done for free.
You know what we really need is some of these eggs that get hatched up on the cliffs or whatever from these crazy birds or whatever. So if you can go up there and get some of those eggs for us, then we will let you into the sea people.
There you go.
And you can literally pick any sort of encounter that you want the party to go through. And one, they go through that encounter, so they get experience, then they can be part of the party. But I do like the idea that the stakes are there and it feels tense. It feels like it could not go your way as the party. But you're probably right, Ryan. You probably always are going to have it go that way.
Unless the party says something incredibly stupid.
Oh,
But
sure.
I really like the idea of your egg idea. Like maybe it's touted as this uh, big rite or this big ceremony or festival or something that they need it to be used of, and the party goes and risks their lives to do this, and they get back and they bring the eggs, and he just makes like an omelet with it. And he's like, "All right, that was a really good omelet. You're in.
Well done. Mm.
Well done. You proved your worth."
That's like something out of a Legend of Zelda game.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess probably the last big thing then is the really cool dungeon finale that is a battle in a sinking ship.
Yeah. What could be a really neat dungeon.
This is one of those DM tests. Like you maybe got like 5 different phases of this dungeon map as this sinking ship is getting more water or maybe turning over or capsizing or splitting in half.
That's the part I love the most about it is because, like, a dungeon flooding is not, like, mind-blowingly, like, crazy or new or
Yeah, it's
anything,
not unheard of.
but, like, a ship sinking with, like, walls shifting, everything changing, your sense of direction being thrown off because, like, walls become the ceiling or the floor, so on and so forth, adds just a whole different level of, like, confusion and shifting and craziness to it.
Yeah, especially if you add just in addition to those hazards, you would imagine there might be electrical circuits that are, if you touch them, you'll get shocked or something like that. Or maybe there's a swarm of some type of piranha like fish that is swimming through, or the killer whales from before, or sharks. You know, there's blood in the water. Maybe there's sharks around too, and you have to worry about that as well.
You come across,
Or murlocs.
a part of the cargo hold where some great valuables are being held, but it's already flooded and it's gonna be difficult to get out. What do you do?
Oh, yeah, you have it set. This is one of those DM tricks. You know the rogue's going to go out alone. Whenever they're alone, whatever room they happen to pick the lock to, it's the safe with all the valuables in it. It's like, the vault moves wherever the rogue is.
Yeah,
Playing off a flaw.
yep.
It could be fun to test this rogue and this flaw. Does the rogue go for the expensive stuff, or does it go save the person who might drown in the next
Yeah,
round?
there's someone trapped in the brig, a party member or an NPC.
The definitely an aspect of the story in the movie is it's not just combat, but then there's a rescue
Yeah.
element. You're trying to rescue your family members and stuff like that from drowning. And yeah, water, like not being able to breathe, is a really scary combatant that you can't fight back against. And so I find the concept of adding in these stakes, because there's also combat, right? Like what you guys said you wanted to happen happens. Quaritch finds the player that he was sent to find, and he's like, I'm never gonna stop. And the DM was with you guys. He was just like, all right, combat then. Try to kill each other, even as the ship is sinking. And so, like, what would you guys do? Would you still try to kill your adversary as the ship is sinking, or are you going to try to flee and get air?
I think it depends on the context. Do I hate this guy? Do I want him to die more than I want to live?
I think so. Well, if you're Quaritch, this guy killed you. If you're Jake, this guy just killed your son. So yeah, you hate each
And he's
other.
just said, "If you let me live, I'm
Okay.
coming after you forever."
Yeah. Okay. All right.
It's
Cool.
it's a it's a callback again to the first one where he says, like, "It ain't over if I'm still breathing," or whatever he says. Like, yep, I guess he's gotta not be breathing then.
That's a really good callback. I didn't catch it at first, but that's a good. I like that.
See, I know. I pay attention to
Oh,
things sometimes. Yeah, yeah.
Nate's smart, people.
yeah, I'm gonna go down with the ship. I'm gonna kill the guy, and yeah,
Absolutely. I feel like most of my characters are impulsive enough to just, yeah, I'm gonna go try to kill this guy. Not all of them, but probably most of them.
yeah, I would need stakes like to save a party member or to save like my character's loved ones. If I can't guarantee their safety, then I might not engage in that. But in the movie, they both drown, so it's kind of hard to say like, no, I would go out and try to disengage because in reality, if one of them wants to fight, they're both fighting,
They have to fight, yeah.
and
There's even a moment where they're, like, about to sink for real, and they're in an air pocket, and they're just staring at each other, and right before the water comes up, they're both just like, "Okay, oh," and then they start
Yeah.
fighting underwater, and it
yeah,
was pretty cool.
it was cool. Yeah, I feel like these guys are both the kind of people too. Be like, this is the end game here. They know that there's no way out.
I gotta say too, it's probably the moment of the movie that I was most like, "Ooh," was them being like trapped in the sunken ship and still like fighting and stuff and trying to get out. Like a big fear of drowning and stuff, and like seeing it, especially in the 3D, I was like, "Ooh."
Wait, did you do that thing where when Jake gets saved by his kid and everything? Nate, did you do the thing in the theater where you hold your breath to see if you can match the? Because Because I did for the last
No,
one.
I didn't, but I was absolutely thinking about doing it the whole time, which I do it in almost any movie where they hold their breath. I was kinda like, "I wonder if I could do this." I did not do it this time, but I really was thinking about
I
it.
barely made it, and your lung capacity is way better than mine. But I was also trying to not look like a goober next to my girlfriend.
And
I I never do that in movies, and it's because I always fail.
Yeah, and then imagine you fail, but these guys are also swimming and fighting and not just sitting in a movie theater seat.
Yeah, I'm failing just sitting there. I would die fighting underwater. I would die so fast. The
I think
DM the DM of real life needs to give me some underwater breathing abilities.
I think you and I and most everyone else would absolutely die trying to fight underwater.
Probably, okay.
I would probably throw in some air pockets and stuff in the ship, um, to,
Yeah, make it workable for
yeah.
D&D.
But yeah, also, like, you have to create a reason for I mean, it could just be them trying to escape the sinking ship that they just happen to be on. I think it would be much more fun to have them have some kind of reason, like we talked about them wanting to kill this NPC, wanting to rescue someone, some reason to go into that sinking ship. So now you have like this time limit as you're trying to navigate this very difficult, very hazardous dungeon.
Alright, so last question. You guys said that you would greenlight going after your former character and killing your former character.
Totally.
My question for you is, would you hurt your former character's child?
Mm.
At the end of the day, this is about telling a good story, and whether it's bad or not, or detrimental or tragic or not, it's a cool story for that PC or something. And I would be like, yeah, that would be some serious trauma that they have to work through. So yeah, I totally would.
I'm
So
actually
you would kill your character's child.
I would hope someone else would do it before me, but
coward. If you say you're gonna do it, you commit because I am actually gonna kind of go the opposite here and like I'm all about killing my former character, but now you meant like killing my former character's family, like their children, things like that. Somehow that like switches things up for me. I'm like, I'm not sure I would find that nearly as fun, if fun at all, to do as like an opposing player character. I don't know that I would like to do that.
Yeah, I don't know that I would either.
It somehow feels very different.
I would have to tell everybody else at the table, it's okay if you kill my character's children or something like that, because it would be the hardest to do it to someone else's PC.
Oh, I'll kill Ryan's PC's children, no problem though, for the record. Not even a second thought.
I wouldn't. I would have a hard time killing Ulrich's kids.
Good.
As a player, as a DM, it's a different story.
Right. He's made that very clear on multiple episodes. I probably wouldn't kill my former character. I probably wouldn't go after my former character. I don't know. I don't think I'm as gung ho about it as you
Coward.
guys. Okay.
I do want to say
Turn.
the just a quick mentioning of Kiri's moment where she is the super nature cleric druid, is able to connect to the matrix and make crazy things happen. Very cool to throw into your campaign. Maybe have a set of building. Maybe this is like an attunement type thing that your character is trying to work through, and the opportunities for this attunement take place in very inopportune times, or opportune times, depending on the way you think of it. But maybe you need like three green lights, three check marks of proper attunement before you can have a drastic effect over the battlefield. Kind of like you were saying, Steve. This is the ultimate level of prize. Is now you can control the wildlife.
You become Aquaman.
Yeah, you become the deep.
That is what.
The d-
I don't know why you would choose that version of Aquaman, but okay. Um, you really do become, or Kiri does become Aquaman in this movie. She literally just sicks the underwater wildlife onto the bad guys. Um,
Well, I mean, so does Loak after befriending the
right,
big
but
whale
Loak
like
doesn't
creature.
like point and then they go. The whale chooses to
No, it's
save him.
not quite as
Yeah.
Aquamanish.
Yeah, Kiri also I don't think maims anyone or kills people. She uses her powers to save.
True enough.
If we were to think about this as a D&D campaign, she's probably the most high magic user there is.
Yeah.
And seemingly she's very powerful.
What class do you give her?
I guess
I'd
druid.
call her
Well, no,
I
cleric,
would call her a cleric. I
nature
feel like,
cleric.
yeah, to AWA. Like, but I mean, you could absolutely argue druid.
But I would probably make her a cleric. So, in you guys' minds, what was the moment in this story that most closely resembled a D&D moment?
My most D&D moment was, I think it's actually a couple of times, but in one in particular, after they've already rescued them off the ship, then they're going back, or then they're sort of escaping rather. Another one gets
For
captured.
context, who is them?
It's Loak escaping with his
Oh, the kids.
girlfriend. Yeah. His water GF, and then Kiri, I think it's Kiri or
Took.
Took.
Took. There we go. I think Toop, whatever the fuck it is, gets captured again. The whole just the concept of like, oh, they got captured again, and we have to go back into almost certain death. Yeah, we're going back, no question about it. There's always going to be that one character who's like, yeah, I have to go back. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go save them. And I like how his
That's you.
water girlfriend is like, it is me often. And I like how his water girlfriend is like, okay, go do that. I'm gonna go escape and get to safety like a smart person.
Yeah. Along with the rest of my clan.
Yeah. That's a moment I
I'm
think
gonna
I've
say
seen play out in D&D a couple of times, more or less.
my most D&D moment is going to be the final battle against a recurring nemesis. You know, it's not a nemesis unless you see them 2, 3, 4, and 5 times. And then in this case, it's a double nemesis because you have your second final battle with them. And who knows, maybe that will just be a setback and there will be a third final battle with them.
I hate actually how accurate that is, because I told you I really like it irked me that we're seeing the same villain in this movie, which I hate in a movie, but in a D&D
But
campaign,
he's growing.
I'd be like, "Oh fuck it, we're fighting this guy again. Let's get him. I hate this guy. Let's go."
Me and Ryan have the same D&D moment. Korish's existence is
Just
definitely, I think, like the villain has a new evolved form. He's bigger, better than ever. Yeah, you're just bringing around the Dark Knight again and again and again for your party. And it's because it's cool. I don't mean to deride it either. I didn't, I liked it a little bit better, it seems, than Nate did. So yeah.
hate it in the movie, love it in D&D. Can't explain that. Can't explain it.
All right. Well, I also have a couple of awards to give out. The first is the inspiration die.
I'll take that.
This
Yeah.
is probably going to be like the best actor award, I think, for our stuff. But the inspiration die goes to Neytiri
Nate. Oh.
for leaning into her emotional RP so much that she threatens to kill Spider,
Oh man.
which leads to the successful intimidation against Quaritch. That scene, when I watched it, I was caught up in the power of it. I was scared of Neytiri, and I totally understood
Absolutely.
why Spider was scared of her. And then later, when she said, she's just like, I cut, and she slashes his chest, and she was like, I will cut again. And I was like, oh my god, she's gonna kill him.
I would
I don't know if I'm prepared to watch
Yeah, the
this.
only person to actually draw blood on the kids was mom.
I
That's
would
funny.
I would absolutely award inspiration for that for a player like RPing like that. That would be amazing.
Oh yeah.
But also, it could be interesting because we kind of talked about the parents being NPCs in this. Like an NPC just going full on mom rage and you kind of having to work around that or even avoid her because, well, she's in full on mom rage.
Yeah, and like what if she's a hero from a prior campaign who's 16th level who is on a rampage?
Like, yeah, you could have to take her down for one if you're opposing her. You could have to sort of rein her in if you're with her, but she's like, being a danger to herself or others. You could just try to have to avoid her. Could be a very interesting NPC interaction there.
And I love Zoe Saldana.
Fantastic job in this role for sure.
And the other one is just the very simply named the oh my god moment. And This is just the moment that literally makes you go, "Oh my god!" And this goes to Spider for killing the pilot of that big aircraft
Oh,
carrier because he
yeah.
takes a
Oh, that was
fire
so
hydrant.
funny.
And
It
I
was
gotta say, that looked like the hardest hit in the entire movie, like bar none.
that was
That
the one
guy's
that
dead. He got just his skull caved in.
Yeah.
even if he's not, so I could see him living through that, but then he's just left unconscious on a sinking ship. He's definitely dead now if he wasn't just from
Probably.
that hit, but it just seemed it wasn't quite out of nowhere, but it just came as like such a surprise and it seemed so brutal compared to some of the other violence we've seen in this movie, which maybe just wasn't so up close and so realistic, I
Yeah,
guess.
I don't,
and
yeah.
we could talk about Spider's story. We could do a whole episode on just how to do like a character like Spider. But you think about it, he's a human who's grown up with Na'vi and has had to keep up with them all his life. He's probably pretty damn strong. Like,
Yeah, that's a good point.
He's a fit little
he's
guy.
a fit kid.
Well, all right, guys, I think that brings us.
We did it. We'll see you again in 13 years.
12 years for Avatar 3 when they go to the fire people.
Yeah, wait, that's announced, right? They're going to the Firelands or something like that?
I think so, yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, the Ash people. That's what
Ash
I read.
Ash people, not fire
Yeah.
people.
So
Very different. Very different.
so volcanoes.
Certainly.
So yeah, that'll be interesting.
All right, y'all. That'll bring us to the end of this movie talk. You can see more of stuff we do at dungeonvets.com. We have podcasts coming out weekly. We have blog posts on the website. Next week, we're going to be doing a party talk. It's going to be round 2 of Steve versus Ryan in Smash Brothers, and they're going to build a D&D party, and we're going to see where that goes. But yeah, thanks for listening, y'all.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye!
All right, I'm gonna go chug some NyQuil and fall into bed.
All right, buddy.